My beloved brothers and sisters, before you sleep tonight, before the noise of the day fully lets go of your heart, I want to invite you into something small, but deeply powerful. Not something complicated, not something that requires energy you don't have. Just 3 minutes, 3 quiet minutes where you stop running, stop replaying, stop carrying what was never meant to follow you into rest. Because how you end your day matters more than you think. What you carry into your sleep seeps into your soul, shapes your thoughts, and quietly prepares the tone of your tomorrow. Tonight isn't about fixing your whole life. It's about softening your heart, releasing what drained you, and returning to a place of peace. So you don't fall asleep exhausted in spirit, but rested in trust. The day does not end when the lights go off. It ends when your heart finally lets go. And most nights we lie down with bodies exhausted but souls wide awake, replaying conversations, reliving mistakes, carrying words we wish we had said differently, holding on to worries about tomorrow that have not even arrived yet. And in those quiet moments before sleep, the heart becomes loud because it was never given space to speak during the day. So tonight, this is not about productivity or discipline or becoming a better version of yourself. This is about mercy for your own soul, about understanding that you were not created to carry everything you experience today into the darkness of the night, because sleep was meant to be a form of healing, not another battlefield. And yet, so many of us turn our beds into places of anxiety simply because we never learned how to gently close the chapter of the day. So before you sleep, give yourself 3 minutes not to scroll, not to distract, not to numb, but to return, to come back to yourself, to come back to the truth that you are human and limited and deeply in need of rest at every level, because what you hold on to in these final moments becomes what you wake up with. And the heart is like soil. Whatever you leave in it overnight takes root quietly, whether it is fear or peace, resentment or trust, gratitude or regret. And this is why these 3 minutes matter more than you think, because they are not small. They are sacred. They are an act of intention, a declaration that today does not get to define you completely, that your mistakes do not get the final word, that your worries do not get to follow you into rest without permission. So sit or lie down and breathe not to. Control your thoughts, but to acknowledge them, to say, I see you, I felt you, but you do not own me, because so often we believe rest comes after resolution, after answers, after clarity, but true rest comes from surrender, from placing what you do not understand down gently, and admitting that you were never meant to solve everything alone. And in these moments before sleep, the heart is most honest. It stops pretending, it stops performing, it reveals what truly hurt you today, what disappointed you, what scared you, what made you feel small or unseen. And instead of pushing those feelings away, let them surface without judgment, because unacknowledged pain does not disappear. It simply waits for silence. And tonight you are giving it that silence. Not to drown in it, but to release it. To say, I am allowed to rest, even if everything is not resolved. I am allowed to sleep, even if I do not have all the answers. I am allowed to be gentle with myself, even if I fell short today. Because carrying guilt into sleep does not make you more responsible. It makes you more tired. And carrying fear into sleep does not make you more prepared. It makes you more anxious. And there is a difference between reflection and self-punishment, between awareness and self-blame. So in these 3 minutes, reflect with compassion, not cruelty. Look at your day, and instead of asking, what did I do wrong? Ask, what did this day ask of me? What did it teach me about my limits, about my needs, about where I need more softness? Because some days are not lessons in strength, but lessons in surrender. And the heart heals when it is met with understanding, not pressure. And as you breathe, slowly remind yourself that today is over, not just physically, but emotionally. That you do not have to keep reliving it to prove that it mattered, because it already did. Every effort counted, even the unseen ones, every sill. Anti-struggle was witnessed even if no one acknowledged it. And you are allowed to put the weight down now, allowed to unclench your jaw, soften your shoulders, release the tension you have been carrying unconsciously all day, as if being tense could somehow protect you from what might come next. And notice how much of your exhaustion is not from what you did, but from what you held, from the expectations you placed on yourself, from the pressure to be okay when you were not, from the need to appear strong when you were quietly unraveling inside. And tonight, strength looks like letting go, like trusting that rest is not weakness, but obedience to your own humanity. Because even the soul needs pauses, needs moments where it is not required to explain itself, fix itself, or justify its pain. And in these final moments before sleep, speak gently to your heart, because the way you speak to yourself at night becomes the voice you wake up with in the morning. And if you fall asleep telling yourself you are behind, you will wake up already tired. But if you fall asleep reminding yourself that you did what you could with what you had, you will wake up with lightness. And this does not mean ignoring growth or accountability. It means understanding timing, understanding that growth does not happen through constant self-criticism, but through consistency and compassion, through returning to truth again and again, even after we forget it. And the truth is, you are not required to have everything figured out tonight. You are only required to be honest, to admit where you are tired, where you are unsure, where you need help, because humility is rest for the soul and control is its heaviest burden. So loosen your grip on tomorrow, on the what ifs and the worst case scenarios that love to visit you when the lights go off, because tomorrow will arrive whether you worry about it or not, and worrying tonight only steals from your strength then. And if your heart feels heavy, if there is sadness you do not fully understand, let it be. Because emotions do not need immediate explanations, they need space. And sometimes healing happens not through answers, but through allowance, through letting the heart exist as it is without forcing it to change. And as you prepare to sleep, remind yourself that rest is not earned, it is needed. That you do not have to exhaust yourself to deserve peace. That you do not have to prove your worth through constant effort. And if today was hard, if you feel like you failed in ways no one saw, let tonight be an act of forgiveness. Not because everything was okay, but because you are choosing to move forward without chains, choosing to trust that tomorrow holds new mercy, new opportunities, new strength. And even if tomorrow brings challenges, you will meet them with a heart that was allowed to rest. And that is enough. That is powerful. That is how quiet transformation begins. Not in dramatic moments, but in these small, nightly decisions to return your heart to peace. To end the day not with fear, but with trust. Not with tension, but with surrender. Not with noise, but with stillness. Because what you do in these 3 minutes before sleep is not just preparing for rest. It is shaping the way you live, the way you carry yourself, the way you move through the world with a softer heart and steadier soul. When the world finally quiets and you are left alone with your thoughts, there is a subtle invitation that appears, one that most people miss because they are too tired to notice it, too overwhelmed to answer it. And that invitation is to return your heart to trust. Not the shallow kind that ignores pain, but the deep kind that acknowledges uncertainty and still chooses to place the weight down. Because trust is not born when everything makes sense. It is born when nothing does, and you decide you cannot carry it alone anymore. And these 3 minutes before sleep are not about convincing yourself that everything will be fine. They are about recognizing that even if everything is not fine, you are not abandoned within it. And so you begin by noticing how much resistance you carry, how tightly you cling to outcomes, to explanations, to closure, to the need for control. And you realize how exhausting that grip has been, how much of your energy was spent trying to manage what was never in your hands. And trust begins the moment you admit that control was an illusion you adopted to feel safe, not a truth that actually protected you. And tonight you allow yourself to loosen that illusion, to say, I did what I could today, and what I could not do does not define my worth. Because so much of our anxiety at night comes from believing that if we think long enough, worry hard enough, replay enough, we will somehow prevent pain from happening again. But the heart was not designed to live in constant anticipation of loss. And trust is the act of telling your heart that it does not need to stand guard while you sleep, that it is allowed to rest its vigilance, that whatever is meant for you will reach you even if you close your eyes, and whatever is not meant for you cannot be forced through fear. And as you sit in this awareness, you may feel discomfort because surrender feels unfamiliar when you have learned to survive through self-reliance, when you have learned to protect yourself by never fully letting go. But trust is not weakness. It is alignment. It is placing your heart back where it belongs instead of letting it wander endlessly through imagined futures. And you begin to notice the subtle shift when you stop demanding certainty and start accepting presence, when you stop asking why and start saying, here I am. Because trust does not always answer your questions. Sometimes it simply holds you while they remain unanswered. And there is relief in that if you allow it. Relief in realizing that you are not required to understand everything to be held by something greater than your understanding. And in these moments before sleep, you may feel memories surface, moments where trust was broken, where expectations were shattered, where you learned that relying on anything felt dangerous, and your heart learned to build walls instead of bridges, learned to prepare for disappointment before it arrived. And tonight is not about forcing those walls down. It is about gently acknowledging why they were built in the first place, honoring the part of you that tried to survive, and then whispering to yourself that survival is no longer the goal, that rest is, that peace is, that healing does not happen when you are always braced for impact, and trust grows when the heart feels safe enough to soften, and safety begins with honesty, with admitting that you are tired of carrying everything, tired of being strong all the time, tired of holding yourself together when you would rather be held. And so you give yourself permission to lean, even if you do not know exactly what you are leaning on. Because trust is sometimes a feeling before it is a belief, a quiet exhale before it becomes a conviction. And as you breathe, you remind yourself that tomorrow does end. OT needs you to be perfect. It needs you to be present. And presence is born from rest, not worry. And you notice how your body responds when you stop rehearsing worst-case scenarios, how your chest softens when you stop trying to predict every possible outcome. And you realize that so much of your fear was rooted in the idea that you are alone in this, that if you do not hold everything together, it will all fall apart. And trust challenges that lie by reminding you that you were never the one holding everything together in the first place. That life continued before you learned to control it, and will continue even when you let go. And this realization does not make you careless. It makes you free, because freedom is knowing that your worth is not tied to your ability to manage every detail, that your value does not decrease when you rest. And as sleep approaches, you may feel a tug to return to old habits of mental noise, of self-interrogation, of replaying conversations and planning responses that may never be needed. And instead of fighting that tug, you acknowledge it gently. You say, I see you. I know you are trying to protect me, but tonight I choose trust over tension. And this choice may need to be made again and again within these 3 minutes, because trust is not a switch you flip. It is a muscle you exercise. And every time you return your thoughts back to surrender, you strengthen it, even if they wander again. And there is compassion in this process, in allowing yourself to be imperfect at letting go, because the heart does not unlearn fear overnight. It unlearns it through repetition, through safety, through small moments like this where nothing bad happens when you rest. And slowly your nervous system begins to believe that it is allowed to stand down, that it does not need to stay alert through the night. And you realize how deeply you have associated STI illness with danger, how silence became a place where worries grew louder. And tonight you rewrite that association. You allow stillness to be a place of refuge, not rumination. And you may feel emotion rise without clear reason, a heaviness, a tenderness, a quiet grief for all the times you carried too much alone. And instead of pushing it away, you let it move through you, because trust includes trusting your own emotions. Trusting that feeling deeply will not break you, that tears do not mean weakness, that softness does not mean vulnerability to harm. And as you surrender, you may notice how the heart naturally turns toward hope, not forced optimism, but a grounded sense that whatever tomorrow brings you will meet it with renewed strength. Because you allowed yourself to rest tonight, because you did not drain tomorrow's energy by worrying today. And there is something profoundly healing in ending the day with trust, in telling your heart that it does not need to earn peace through perfection, that it is allowed to be at ease simply because it exists. And this kind of trust reshapes how you wake up, how you move, how you respond, because a rested heart is less reactive, less defensive, less afraid. And even if tomorrow holds challenges, you will face them from a place of stability rather than panic. And this is why these 3 minutes matter, because they are not about the night alone. They are about retraining your heart to return to trust again and again, to recognize that letting go is not losing, that surrender is not defeat, that rest is not neglect. And as sleep draws closer, you allow your final thoughts to be ones of release, not resolution, of faith, not fear, of openness, not control, and you let yourself drift, not with answers, but with trust still unfolding, still settling, still gently teaching your heart that it is safe to rest here, safe to be held here, safe to stop striving here, safe to simply be here. As the night deepens and your body begins to surrender to stillness, there is one final intention that quietly shapes the way you will wake, the way tomorrow will meet you. And that intention is what you choose to plant in your heart before sleep. Because the heart does not rest empty. It rests pregnant with whatever you leave inside it. And so these 3 minutes become a moment of gentle planting. Not forcing yourself to be positive, not denying what hurt, but choosing with care what you allow to take root overnight. Because just as the mind replays what is unresolved, the heart nurtures what is repeated. And if you fall asleep rehearsing fear, fear becomes familiar. But if you fall asleep holding intention, intention becomes direction. And tonight you are not asked to map your whole future, only to choose the tone of your inner world, to decide what kind of soil you want to wake up with. Because tomorrow does not begin in the morning, it begins now, in this quiet threshold between consciousness and rest, where your defenses are low and your truth is close to the surface, and you begin by noticing what tomorrow usually carries for you emotionally, whether it is pressure, dread, urgency, expectation, or self-criticism, and you acknowledge how often you wake up already tired because your heart spent the night bracing itself, preparing for impact, rehearsing survival. And tonight you choose something different, not because tomorrow will be easy, but because you deserve to meet it with a heart that is not already wounded by anticipation. And intention is not about controlling outcomes. It is about choosing orientation, choosing where your heart faces when it wakes. And so you speak quietly within yourself, not affirmations that feel hollow, but truths that feel grounding, truths that do not deny struggle but refuse despair, truths like I will meet tomorrow as I am not, as I think I should be, truths like I will take the next right step when it appears instead of demanding the whole staircase, truths like I am allowed to move slowly and still move forward, because intention is most powerful when it is realistic, compassionate, and anchored in presence. And as you sit with this, you may feel resistance because part of you is used to motivating itself through fear, through pressure, through harsh self-talk, and kindness feels unfamiliar, even unsafe. But intention rooted in fear burns fast and leaves you empty, while intention rooted in compassion sustains. And tonight you are choosing sustainability over intensity, choosing steadiness over urgency, choosing alignment over force. And this choice may feel subtle, but subtle shifts create profound change over time because the heart listens even when the mind doubts. And as sleep approaches, the mind becomes less dominant and the heart more receptive. And this is why these moments matter, because what you whisper to yourself now bypasses logic and settles into belief. And so you choose your words carefully. You speak to yourself as you would to someone you love deeply, someone you want to protect, someone you want to see thrive, because you are that someone, even if you forget it during the day. And you remind yourself that tomorrow does not need you to arrive fully healed, fully confident, fully ready. It needs you to arrive honest, open, and willing, and willingness grows when pressure is released, when the heart is not suffocating under expectations, and you notice how different it feels to think of tomorrow not as a test you must pass, but as a space you will step into, a space where you will respond rather than prove, where you will listen rather than perform. And this shift alone eases the nervous system, softens the chest, loosens the grip in the stomach, because the body knows when. It is no longer being threatened by your own thoughts. And as you continue breathing, you may find images of tomorrow forming, moments you are worried about, conversations you are anxious to have, responsibilities you feel unprepared for, and instead of pushing them away, you place intention over them gently, like a blanket rather than a weight. You say, I will show up with presence. You say, I will respond instead of react. You say, I will ask for help if I need it, because intention is not about doing everything alone. It is about choosing connection over isolation, truth over pretense, and the heart relaxes when it knows it does not have to carry the future in silence. And perhaps you notice how often you set intentions that are really demands, telling yourself you must be better, stronger, calmer, more productive, and tonight you choose intentions that are invitations. Invitations to growth rather than ultimatums, because growth that is forced fractures the soul, but growth that is invited integrates gently. And this is how lasting change is formed, not through constant self-correction, but through consistent self-return, returning again and again to what matters, to who you are becoming. And as you lie there, you might feel a quiet hope stirring, not the loud kind that promises everything will work out, but the grounded kind that says, whatever comes, I will meet it with integrity. And this hope is not naive, it is resilient, because it is built on the understanding that life is unpredictable, but you are capable, that challenges do not negate your worth, that setbacks do not erase progress. And intention reminds you of this before the world has a chance to convince you otherwise in the morning. And as your thoughts slow, you may feel gratitude surface unexpectedly. Gratitude not for perfection, but for survival, for making it through another day, for the lessons you did know. Ask for but received, for the strength you did not know you had until you needed it. And gratitude is a powerful seed to plant before sleep, because it shifts focus from scarcity to sufficiency, from lack to presence, and it does not require you to ignore pain to practice it. It simply asks you to notice what is still here despite the pain. And as you hold this gratitude, you may notice your breath deepen naturally, your body signaling that it feels safe enough to rest. And safety is the foundation of intention, because the heart cannot move forward when it is stuck in defense. And tonight you are telling your heart that it does not need to fight tomorrow tonight, that it can conserve its energy, that it can trust the timing of things. And this trust does not make you passive. It makes you prepared in a deeper way, because a rested heart responds with clarity. And clarity is born from calm, and calm is cultivated here, in this quiet moment where no one is watching, where nothing is required of you, where you are simply choosing how you want to meet the next day internally. And as sleep draws closer, your intentions begin to blur into feeling rather than words, into a sense of orientation rather than a list of goals. And this is exactly where they need to be, because the subconscious does not work with bullet points. It works with emotion, with tone, with repetition. And by choosing peace tonight, you are teaching your inner world that peace is allowed, that it is not reserved for when everything is finished. And this lesson slowly changes how you live, how you move, how you relate, because you stop postponing peace and start carrying it with you. And even if tomorrow tests you, even if you forget this intention during the day, it will still be there quietly influencing you, softening your reactions, guiding your choices, reminding you of who you are beneath the noise. And this is the quiet power of these 3 minutes, that they work beneath the surface, shaping you gently without force. And as your awareness fades and sleep takes over, the intention you planted settles deeper, weaving itself into your rest, into your dreams, into the way your nervous system recalibrates overnight, preparing you not just to wake up, but to wake up aligned, grounded, and open to what is ahead, without fear tightening its grip, without pressure stealing your breath, without yesterday defining your capacity. And you drift carrying not the weight of what you must do, but the steadiness of who you are choosing to be, allowing tomorrow to unfold without needing to control it, without demanding certainty, without carrying the burden of perfection, resting instead in the quiet confidence that whatever comes, you will meet it one step at a time, with intention already rooted, already growing, already shaping the way forward.